we've got the downpipe back in. We got a turbo blanket on, and we kind of ghetto heat wrapped the heater hoses and speedometer cable and throttle cable. We're gonna figure out a better solution for this down the road, but for now we want to just kind of prevent anything from melting as much as possible. So it's all in. We got the AFR hooked up, the O2 hooked up. Everything's good. We get to see how she sounds.
All right.
So we have all of the exhaust is done. Still don't know about the alternator issue. I did add a 470 ohm resistor onto it, and I do have volts at the alternator now, but I'm not sure if the alternator is charging the battery still. So still working with that issue. But other than that and the tachometer right now, I think those are the only really two things that we haven't fixed for sure. So yeah, let's hear it start up.
Okay. So I don't.
Are you ready for this, Tyler?
Oh, I've been ready. I've been working on this all day. I'm ready to hear this thing. Are you ready?
I am ready. Oh, my thing fell out again. God, these things are annoying.
Here we go. First start. Fuel pump works.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? It sounds so good.
It does.
I can like I can literally feel the rumble in the field.
Yeah?
Like feel it.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, well, there's the first issue. This is vibrating way too much.
Let it warm up.
I think the throttle might be sticking slightly.
It's probably because of how I had to run it.
Did you check it and see if it was tight?
Here, do it.
I'm not sure if my oil gauge works either, my oil pressure gauge, because it went, and then also the coolant, it was fluttering, or the temperature gauge, it was fluttering a second ago, and as you can see my tach isn't working. What is that noise? What's leaking?
That hose. It's got a washer on it.
Well, we found the first leak. It's the hose we blocked off, of course.
Which apparently we didn't do a very good job of.
Is that the heat wrap smoking?
Yeah.
God, that stuff makes me nervous.
Yeah, it looks like from where it's coming down from, that was it.
Okay. Hey guys, so we actually found out that the alternator was in fact bad. So we ended up picking up a KA24DE Alternator. There's two things you need to change. It will fit on the SR. You need to change the pulleys out and also drill the hole for the tensioner. Because the KAs, I think they have a bolt that threads in to hold it, and the SRs have a nut that holds it on the opposite side. So other than that, I think the plug-in port, the same. Looks like it.
Yeah, the only thing I actually swapped out just before you got out here is there was a little red grommet that sits on the inside of that. I already installed it into the new one.
Yeah, basically all we're doing is replacing the pulley. Currently, the SR pulley is a bigger diameter and also has a different hose. Well, not hose, a different belt size as well. Currently, Tyler's just trying to get the pulley off because it's pretty stuck on there. And this is the part I was telling you about that needs to be drilled out. Basically, it needs to be the size of the back there. So you just drill through with the appropriate drill bit. You just drill through there and take the threads out. And it should be all set. I actually think the blue one up there is a KA24 alternator. It looks exactly the same. Also, in order to get the alternator out, we had to eliminate the intercooler piping from here that goes up to the throttle body and actually snake the alternator over and down. So it was a little bit of a pain to figure that out, but the easiest way we found is to take the intercooler piping off there, and it came out pretty easily. Everything's a tight squeeze in this car, but it wasn't too bad. This is the difference. I mean, the SR pulley is way bigger. And then, just to make sure that it's the correct hole, I'm gonna grab the adjuster that goes in it, which is this little guy here that sits in that hole. Boom!
Like a glove.
And it does. So it actually comes through like this, and this connects to the tensioner on the outside. This tensions down, and then you hold it there with the nut.
We didn't want to take any of it off. We were like, fingers crossed. We're like, no, yeah, we can get it.
Yeah,
no,
we fiddled with it for about 20 minutes, just like, can we do it? Can we? And then we're like, no, we can't.
And then another thing that unfortunately we didn't realize, on this one we had to drill out one of the things to make a ground.
No, we didn't. Oh, you mean the terminal itself?
Yeah.
Not this.
That's another thing. I'm glad that I just saw that we may actually have to grind this down as well.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so right now Chelsea is installing the battery. We just got the alternator in. It's definitely a lot easier when you start removing pipes. But everything seemed to match up just fine. Everything's nice and tight. And we're going to try and see if this thing's actually going to hold a reading and charge the battery.
Just like to add, if you buy a used alternator, make sure it works. Because that's what happened to me. I got scrumped. And you'll know that reference if you watch a certain TV show.
Okay, so now to test to see if this thing's actually working, what Chelsea's going to do is throw on the battery. So right now our battery is reading
12 volts, which it should be 12.6 technically. I mean, this is a brand new battery, but since the alternator wasn't working, it has drained the battery, because obviously, if you don't know, the alternator recharges the battery like while you're driving the car and have the car on. So hopefully this number will go up to about 14 to right under, like around 14 and a half volts with the car on. So you definitely don't want it to drop below 13 with accessories on and everything. So we're hoping this goes up to about 14 volts. Fingers crossed. So that's with the car on.
Alright, here we go.
Let's go.
It didn't go up?
Nope. So after we finished putting in the alternator and we tested it, as you just saw in the last clip, it still wasn't working. So what we ended up doing was coming back the next day, taking a breather, and thinking, okay, why are we not getting, like, why is the alternator not getting extra volts? It's not sending extra volts to the battery. So what we ended up doing was testing the charge wire that comes off of the alternator, and we got like 1 volt, I think, 1 or 2 volts, which that's a 12 volt line. So I was like, okay, obviously we're not getting 12 volts to that wire. Why isn't that wire getting 12 volts? So what I did was I removed the 470 ohm resistor that I had put on there and put the charge wire directly onto a 12 volt source and started the car, tested the alternator or the battery, and the alternator was working. So we were like, okay, obviously this is the problem. That wire's not getting 12 volts. Why isn't it getting 12 volts? After we realized that the charge wire wasn't getting its full 12 volts, I took it off of where I jumped the 12 volts to it, took it off. I was like, okay, so we looked at the fuse panel, tested all the fuses on the interior fuse panel. We had 2 that were blown, one that was marked meter, which is a 10 amp fuse, and one that was marked engine, which is a 15 amp fuse. Replaced both of those, turned the car back on, tested the battery again, still had nothing to the alternator. I was like, that's weird. So we tested the fuses we just replaced, and the 10 amp one blew immediately. So I was like, okay, maybe we replaced it with a blow one on accident. So I went to replace it again, and as soon as I did, I heard it pop. I was like, okay, this is the problem. That 10 amp fuse is just immediately popping. So Tyler recommended we put a 15 amp fuse in there. So I put that in, started the car again, tested the battery, and everything was good. The 15 amp fuse has not popped yet. I'm assuming it needed to be a higher amperage. So maybe the SR20 alternator pulls more amps. I'm not 100% sure, but that did fix our issue, and everything's working fine now. And after we put that 15 amp fuse, we had the charge light on the cluster finally being shown, because it wasn't being shown before. So if you have that issue, check your fuse panel first. And we did get our alternator tested at the local parts store, and they did say it was bad. So we didn't waste our time and waste our money buying a new alternator. They did say that that alternator was bad itself. So that was good. At least we got that taken care of, and we didn't get stuck somewhere and it break down. That was terrible. So we got the alternator fixed, and now it's all good and it's running fine. The battery is up to like 12.55 volts by itself the last time I checked. We only have a couple more issues that we've ran into. Now my windshield wipers won't work. Not sure why. Still need to fix the tach. The temperature sensor, I think, may be bad because our temperature gauge on the cluster is not working. And the oil pressure gauge, I'm pretty sure, isn't working. I think it's just not sending a signal, but from what I understand, the SR20s have a oil pressure light on the 240s instead of the actual gauge, kind of like on the 94 to 97 1.8 Miatas. So I don't know if this engine actually has a sending unit on for the oil. So that's something I need to look into, whether I get an aftermarket gauge or whatever. I need to know oil pressure. So other than that, we had an issue with the car running lean, or saying that it was running lean at like, it was like 18, 19 AFRs, and Tyler talked to Martin over at RS Enthalpy, and he said to take the ground off of the MAF, which we did, and now everything's fine. It it's not running lean anymore, idling lean rather. So that's good. And then now we're having an issue with when you put too much gas down and you immediately take it off, it stalls out the car. And we again reached out to Martin, which he's fantastic, and he told us that since we need 12 inches of pipe from the turbo to the MAF. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think it has something to do with the air turbulence within the turbo, and then it getting pushed back into the MAF once the accelerator is off. I mean, I could be totally wrong. If you guys know, please explain it to me a little bit further. So we're gonna have to reroute the air filter backwards, and I'll show you what I mean. So currently our MAF and our air filter are directly connected and right in front of the turbo. So what I mean is you want to have a 12-inch pipe connected here, and then the other end connected to the at least 12 inches. I think it was like 12 to 18 inches you really want. So basically what we're gonna have to do is we bought a 135-degree 3-inch pipe, aluminum pipe, and we're going to route it backwards and then put the MAF, and the air filter is going to be sitting right here. So we definitely need to build that heat shield more than ever now. Basically what I think we're going to do is run like a flat shield from here all the way to like here and hook it into these screw holes down here. I'm not really sure exactly what we're going to do, but we'll have to figure it out. It's gonna have to go pretty high, basically make a box around the air filter, and so it doesn't bring in hot air, because you want it to bring in cold. I'm just waiting on those parts to come in. Always a waiting game, and so after that comes in and we get that fixed and we get the heat shield done, we are going to take it for a test drive, make sure everything's okay. We're not going to do anything crazy because I'm a little nervous that our diff is going to break. I don't know if we'll really get into boost, and if we do, it's going to be like really light. We got to take care of this. I mean, the car is running good so far. We've only had 2 leaks, the one in the back that we showed you in the last video, and we had one underneath the intake manifold, which Tyler had to take off and redo a couple of hoses. The clamps weren't on there all the way. So far that's the only 2 leaks that we had, and they are fixed now, and everything should be okay, and it's buttoned up, and I can't wait to take this for a spin. You guys stay tuned, because the next video with the Miata should be us driving it. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, have a great day. Later.